Hey guys. So, most people who have a fitness account generally have some story or history to how they got to where they are or what motivates them to continue on their fitness path. And I would say that I have a pretty interesting story of my own, and I've always wanted to share it with the world, but I've never really been sure how. So, I thought a good way to do it could be to start a fitness Instagram account, which is what I'm doing now, and I'm going to post it Sunday. So you don't have to watch this video, but I'm just sharing my life story and how I got to where I am today and what motivates me and what I hope other people can take from my journey. Okay, so I have always been a very fit person. Like in seventh grade, I could do I think 10 pull-ups, which is really good for a seventh grader. And I never really worked on it. I was just naturally strong in that way. It was because of my light body weight, and I was always the strong one in PE who could run. I'd always finish the mile first, that kind of thing. I'd always like in like the football 40-yard dashes. I'd always be the fastest kid there, all that. So I would always kind of been like the fit kid, but that image never really came like full blown until my freshman track season. And at that point in my life, I was becoming extremely hot headed. Like I wasn't even that fit yet, but starting then, that's when I think I really hit puberty and my testosterone started like, boosting. So like my max bench went up 30 pounds in about a month, which is a lot actually. Went all the way from 155 to 185. And with small numbers like that, that's pretty big gains for size and for strength. And I was breaking some records for my freshman year in triple jump. Like I think I jumped about a 40-foot jump as a freshman in one of my first meets, and that's really good. And because of that, I kind of became like a fitness idol to myself. Like the only thing I cared about in life was my fitness and what people saw me as in fitness. Like I wanted to be the fittest kid. I wanted to be like the fastest kid, the strongest kid, and everything. And that's what I focused my life on. So eventually, in all my free time, I wanted to be working out, and I'd always be working out. So I already said that. I'd be running. So I ran track really hard. I would push myself so hard to failure. And then right after, I'd go to the gym, work out, and not take rest, and go back to the gym, back to running, and whatever I'd do, I'd go back to jumping without any rest time. So I was just pounding myself to the ground and just trying to be the best athlete I could be. Where really, I literally was pounding myself to the ground because I noticed while I was training, my back started hurting. And I was like, okay, it's probably just muscle tightness. Like if I bent over, be a little sore. So I was like, okay, I'll just go a little lighter. So maybe I added a little bit of rest time to my workouts, or maybe I just didn't run quite as hard, or I'll just sit out maybe a couple reps. But I was still training because I didn't want to lose my progress. I want to keep progressing to be the best athlete I could be for other people, not for myself. I want to be good so other people will see me as like the fit athletic kid. That's all I cared about. And eventually my back pain got worse and worse and worse and worse to a certain times I couldn't even tie my shoes. I couldn't sit down in class. I literally could not run the race in the meet, a track meet. Because I remember one day my coach told me, hey Henry, you're up for a 200-meter dash. I was like, coach, there's no way I can run it. But he was like, come on Henry, I'm sure you're fine. So I ran it. And I was about to cry when I was running it. It hurt so bad. Yet, really, did I care? No. I just wanted to finish the race and try to be first. Yet, of course, I finished last because my back hurt, and that tore me to pieces. And because of that, I kept trying harder and harder and harder to become fit. So I'd work harder, I'd push my body harder, and I'd still deadlift like 300 pounds as a freshman. And this just made my back worse and worse every day. And then once the season ended, I finished my whole season with my back hurting. And I still didn't know what it was, but I assumed it's just muscle tightness, so it would go away over time. And it didn't. So it was about a few weeks into the summer, I was like, you know what? I think it's time to see a doctor. So I went to a physiologist, and he told me, okay, so the issue is you either have a muscle strain in your lower back, it's from like overworking it and never resting it, which is very likely. He said that was about like 97% chance that's what it is, and 3% chance it was a spinal fracture. And we're like, there's no way it's that. I'm young, I'm a young kid, I'm fit, I'm strong. Like, I didn't break my back. And then give it 2 weeks, I happened to be on a cruise ship for my grandpa's birthday. And one night after we came back from dinner, I went to my dorm room, my parents sat me down and said, Henry, We just got the email from your doctor, and you have a fractured spine. And that was not a good day for me. At first, I didn't really realize what it meant. I was like, okay, fractured spine, great, it'll heal. Bones heal, so give me 6 weeks, I'll be back to normal. So I didn't really sweat it. I was like, okay, awesome. Now I know what the problem is, I can get it fixed. I was still pissed. I was like, great, fractured spine, because nobody wants to hear that, right? Like, no broken bones are good at all. But I wasn't really worried about it, because I knew, okay, I can get healed in a few weeks. Just give me a back brace or give me physical therapy, I'll be fine. So I was like, great. And plus, at that point in my life, I was so like focused on my image that I was like, okay, I'll just use this broken back to make people like feel sympathetic for me instead of proud of me for how strong I was or whatever. I was in a very bad mindset for fitness. And so when I got back, I went to the doctor and he prescribed me physical therapy. So I went to physical therapy for about 6-7 weeks, and I was resting. I didn't work out at all. It stretches, all that. And then I got an MRI. Oh, sorry. The way we found out I had a fracture was from an MRI, which showed a spinal fracture in the L4, L5 vertebrae in the pars region of my spine. And then I got a second MRI about 7 weeks later, and it showed no improvement. I was like, oh, great. So the doctor then prescribed me a back brace. And then we're about halfway into the summer now, maybe a little further, probably towards the end. And then, so I started wearing a back brace. I wore the back brace during practice, during school, and it was a pretty big back brace. I don't have it with me right now because I'm in college, but I'll upload it in a video later or a picture. And I wore that big thing for like 6-7 weeks. And then, as it turns out, it was the wrong back brace. That back brace, okay, my injury is down here. The back brace was up here. So literally, it put more pressure on my injury, which could have made it worse or just done nothing. And I was not happy about that. And then I was like, you know what? I'll just do more physical therapy. So I did physical therapy for about 6 months longer with no improvement. I didn't work out because I can't, because my back hurt so bad 24/7. Some days I couldn't sleep. So I couldn't run, I couldn't work out, and during this time I was getting so wildly depressed. Because fitness is who I was. Fitness is what made me who I was, and that's all I defined myself to be. So when I lost that, I lost myself. I need to refine myself, but I didn't. Because I was so focused on I'll heal, I'll get better. I can still be a fit kid, that I just lost myself. And I didn't try to develop myself in other ways. So after about 6 months, I had no improvement, like none. And I got a CT scan, and they're like, what a CT scan? It's like an X-ray that uses radiation. It's like a more expensive, fancy X-ray, if that makes sense. Then I got that, and they said, nope, no improvement. Looks the same as the first MRI. I was like, great, nothing to do with that. So then they were like, okay, there is another thing you can do. So they told me you could try wearing a body brace for 6-7 weeks. And while I was doing that, I could try to be a test subject for a bone growth stimulator, which is a little electronic device that I put over the fracture, and I like tape it on, strap it on, and then it would send little electronic shocks into my spine to try to heal my back. And I was like, okay, but I decided to try it. So I wore that back brace, and bear in mind, this is during the school year. So I had to wear the back brace all the time unless I was showering or sleeping. So then I wore it all day during school. So I walked around, I was hobbling around like an idiot. Like literally, I was walking around like this. So the back brace went from here down to there, and down one leg to there. So I cannot move this joint because the injury was there. Because the whole point was to stabilize this joint. So I was literally, let's say my arm was the back brace, I was walking around like this everywhere. And I couldn't bend that joint at all. And that's just terrible. So I couldn't really sit in a chair. Sitting in a chair would literally be like this, in a straight line. So that's not sitting in a chair, that's like laying down in a chair. So I could barely write because writing would be like this. So I went through school for 7 weeks. I took all my tests, went to classes, and I had a pretty big campus, so I had to walk around all the time, up the stairs, elevators, and it was such a depressing life. And I couldn't drive anymore. And whenever I was picked up in a car, I had to like lay down in the seat wearing my back brace. Just everything was so depressing. And I was like, okay, this is for my fitness to come back. That's what kept me going. I was like, I'm doing this for fitness. I'm doing this so I have myself back. And I was like, okay, I have the bone growth stimulator. I like it on my back. And then I was realizing my back might start even hurting more when I was wearing the back brace. It just didn't help at all. My pain stayed the same. Nothing helped. And then I was like, okay. I went back to the doctor, and he told me, you don't have to wear it anymore. And I told him how I felt. And he's like, okay, Henry, that means, I told him that I didn't feel any improvement and might even hurt more. And the doctor then told me, okay, Henry, what this means is you didn't heal at all. The back brace is pointless. And he literally told me these words. He said, the best thing I can tell you to do is to stay in bed for a year and hope and pray that you'll get healthy. He already told me those words. And you do not want to tell it to a depressed kid. That did not affect me well. That drove me to a really bad place. And my black hole depression I was already falling into just got much deeper. And I just gave up on life. Where I was just like, you know what? If I can't heal, can't be fitness, that's all I am. That's all that defines me. It's all people like me for. So I just gave up on life. And that was not a good time for me. So basically I just gave up who I was. I gave up my fitness life, and I was just sad. And then after, see how long? About that whole summer of just being sad and depressed and just not being in a good place, not running, just being at home every day by myself. My parents talked to me like, Henry, we can tell you're not in a good place, and we know you lost your fitness, and I know we know that's like what made you happy, but you're still Henry. You can still be happy in your life. And they told me that I should go see a therapist to help me cope with my loss, because I was just so defeated by it. I was just so self-defeating. And I went to a therapist, and he helped me like embrace my situation and learn to be happy still. And he helped me with that. And then after that, I decided to try to be fit. Because he told me about how he had a hurt hip. Not hurt hip. I think he tore his HCL, MCL. Sorry if I got the name wrong. That's awkward if I did. But and he said that the doctor told him he probably wouldn't like run again. He probably wouldn't do his sports again because he's a very athletic person. And then he told me one day he decided to sit down on the exercise bike and just go full ham, just go like as fast as he could for a whole mile. He said his leg never felt better, and ever since then, he's great. It might hurt every now and then, but he says he's great. He like literally has an injured HCL. There's no idea what it's called. Hamstring thing, and he's fine. I got an ACL, ACL, MCL, PCL, something like that. But he said he's fine though, and he's literally injured the same as before, and that got me thinking. I was like, I wonder if I could do that. So then I kept pushing. I was like, you know what? It hurts to run. It hurts to work out. All that literally hurts like hell. But I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I started running a mile almost every other day probably. It hurt really bad, and I couldn't run past a mile without probably almost collapsing in pain. But I did it anyways. I started running and working out. I started bench pressing because I joined a strength class in my high school. And I started bench pressing and doing light back squatting, all the stuff I wasn't supposed to do. And it did hurt at first, but I just coped with it. And eventually, over the course of about 6 months, my pain kept subsiding and subsiding and subsiding and subsiding. And then eventually, my mile time went from like high 7s down to like low 6s to into 5s almost. And I was like, I'm getting good again. And that just got me so happy. And like my max bench when I started was like, I think it was like 150, 160. And by the end of those 6 months, I got 225, which is pretty good. And it's not like more like crazy numbers, but just like my progress. And then I realized after 6 months, my back didn't really hurt that bad anymore. Like I still hurt like the general constant aching, and when I bend over, it hurts a little bit, but it's never bad to where I can't sleep. and now I can work out. Like, I can run a mile. Like, right now, I could go run a mile just fine. I could run 2 miles, 3 miles just fine without my back hurting. And I went to my doctor. I said, hey, doctor, guess what? I've been working out. I've been running. I've been doing everything just fine. And he's like, I was like, how is that? And he said, I don't know. Doesn't make sense. Is your spine is still broken? You shouldn't be able to do that. And he literally didn't know how I was doing what I was doing. And then, yeah, this is crazy. So, literally, he told me, you shouldn't be working out. You shouldn't be running. You should not be powerlifting. I should not be deadlifting and squatting and power cleaning. That's very back intensive. Yet, I can do it. Because I convinced myself that I could, and I've strengthened my muscles to where I can. Which makes sense, kind of. But then I talked to my biology teacher at high school about it, and he said, no, it doesn't really make sense to have a fractured spine and to have that huge like disconnection in your spine and still be able to do all that. And he told me, yes, your muscles do cope for it. Yes, you do convince yourself you're healthier, but what it really is God. Where God blesses me because he knows how important fitness is to me. And now that I have a healthy mindset and I'm grateful for my gifts, because I am so grateful for what I can do. Like, I love what I can do. It's so, yeah. But, like, God knows that. And he blesses me with the ability to do what I can do. He's not healing my spine, but he kind of is. I'm like, does it make sense? Like, why can I power clean and deadlift like 400 pounds with a fractured spine? It doesn't really make sense. Yet God lets me do it. That's all it really is. So, and ever since then, I've been on a fitness journey. I've been working out healthily, in a much healthier mindset, like constantly since then. And I've been like doing calisthenics, powerlifting, running, CrossFit, cardio, everything. Where now, I'm kind of like a fitness person. And I've always wanted to share my story of going from like a back braced kid who couldn't get out of bed, not literally, but this a doctor told me I should have been, to where I am now. Like now, people would never guess I have a fractured spine. When I tell them, they're shocked. They tell me I'm stupid for working out. And I'm like, stop me. Like literally stop me. Like look at me. I'm just fine. Like I agree. I shouldn't be doing all this, but I can because I'm being blessed with the ability to do it by God. And I'm happy with that. And so I've always wanted to share my story with people. I haven't really been sure how. I've done case by case. Like if people were depressed or have injuries or coping through stuff, I can share my story of development and my growth mindset. Because that's really what pushed me through my injury, having the growth mindset. I was always like, I can get better at this. Even though it hurts, I'll push through the pain and get better. I'll get stronger. And my growth mindset is really what healed me. So I've always wanted to share my story with people, but I've never really known how. And I'm hoping that through this Instagram page, I can do that. And I can inspire others to grow as I have and to progress the way I did. Because I think my story is pretty amazing to myself. And I hope others will find it inspirational and amazing also. So, thanks for listening.